Good morning. Today's cartoon is going to be these two critters. Today is May the 5th. Ready for another bad Star Wars joke? If you write fifth like this, it almost looks like Sith. So today, we got this little evil looking dude. So I'm going to say, may the Sith be with you. May the 5th be with you. Okay, sorry. Couldn't help myself. So, are they friends or foes? Are they evil people? That guy doesn't look very nice. So what about this one? Maybe to do what's called a reversal, we'll have this little dude terrorizing that guy because he looks scarier. He or she looks scarier. It looks scarier. This one doesn't look so scary, but who knows what these mechanical looking things on the side of its head are. And look at all the either teeth or feet down there. So I'm going to have this guy menacing that guy. And you'll forgive me if I keep saying guy because that's the way I think. So I'm going to start with this guy, person, it, thing, and we're going to make it really menacing. So I'm going to stretch out its body really huge, and I'm going to assume that these are legs. So I'm just going to do a bunch of squiggly lines down here. Its eyes are way down here, but maybe I'm also going to give him a mouth. So it looks really terrible, and his mouth is going to also have those squiggly looking lines, kind of like, what's that character from Futurama? Nordberg? So maybe it's got like feelers coming out of his mouth right here. We're going to make his mouth really big, like taking up most of his body and then coming off this way. And again, more of these squiggly things. Nordberg-esque. Since you can't really tell what sort of teeth he has, I'm going to give him really big teeth to make him really menacing. So he's got huge teeth there and huge teeth here. And now you can kind of see or understand how being inspired by someone else's cartoon, but making it your own, can happen. So I'm going to put its little eyes here. Just has two on either side of its head there. And then I'm going to put a bunch of squares here for the whatever these bolts are or mechanical pieces. There's probably one down here. It may not make sense until you see the ones on the other side. And I don't know what those things are, but I'm going to call them bolts for now. So it's kind of like, he's kind of like a Frankenstein character. And then I'm going to curve his mouth like this. And also like this on the other side of his head. So he'll have two pieces. This is the side of his face, and this is the mouth. Now the scary dude is going to be reacting similar to the Frankenstein character that I obviously didn't finish inking. So this one's sort of scary. I'm using the same sort of thing on it. And the other one is cowering back. In this case, I've got the formerly not scary person, and maybe I'll, instead of just making little squiggly lines for his feet, maybe I'll do like that, if you saw that movie Monsters, Inc., which I'm sure you did, maybe I'll give him the crab legs instead to make him even more menacing. And again, please add your own take to this. This is just sort of my way of thinking. You're welcome to copy it exactly as you see it. If you want to change it up and make it your own, that would even be more fun. But see if you can incorporate two characters. So this guy's mostly got a square head and a really squatty body. Squatty body. That kind of rhymes. So I'm going to do his head like this. He's got these little fin-looking things coming out of the side of his head, or maybe it's hair. Oh, if it's hair, maybe it should be standing up like this because he's scared. So these are the things that you think about, or that I think about, when I'm drawing, how I can not only make it my own, but how I can alter it. And this is the importance of construction lines. He's got some sort of divot in the top of his head here. I'm not quite sure what that is, but I'm going to draw a little divot here. And then that pattern comes down his head like this. Maybe it's kind of a brow of sort. And then rather than having his eyes and mouth look menacing, almost looks like a jack-o'-lantern in this part, I'm going to do him really big. And worried. When you're making a worried look on a mouth like this, make the ends go down like that. And then, of course, you have the sweat coming off of his head like this because he's really scared. Again, his body is really squat. His arms are really tiny. So I'm just going to do him like that. Little tiny feet. And this foot is actually behind the crab leg thing. And he's got more of these things coming off the side. And of course the belly button. And the bottom of his head. Kind of follows his mouth a little ways. So now when I ink this in, oh, forgot the shining. Maybe this is like a crab made out of metal because it's very shiny. Similar to the shiny parts of this glass creature that we did last time, or last week. So now I'm just going to start penciling it in. Remember to always pencil in the things that are in front first and overlap them. So I'm just applying a little more pressure. And for now, until I decide how to ink this thing, I'm just going to go around and not do all of these details here. Then I'm going to come in and do his mouth, the bottom of his mouth. Almost looks like a goatee or what's called a soul patch. That's that little piece of hair that some guys grow underneath their lip, which isn't quite a beard or a goatee. Really sharp teeth. Exaggerate the mouth opening. Got this little Frankenstein thing coming off of this side, and then I'm going to darken this in. I'm going to go ahead and put some shading inside this one because it's on the other side of his head. Its head. These ones are coming out of the side of the head here. And I'm just going to leave them very plain right now. And notice also, I'm very unconcerned with going over this line. That's something that we can work out on the computer later. I'm very unworried about that. Then to make him look angry, just give him a couple of little lines here. Finish off these mechanical bolt things on the side of his head. And darken them in also because, again, they're on the other side of his head. You can darken in his mouth if you like. Don't be super concerned with getting it perfect unless you really want to. And by the way, you don't necessarily have to draw your characters in this grid. I just do this to save space because I like to fill up as much space as possible on a page. But don't feel like if you want to draw a little bit larger, that's fine, because we're going to be continuing to take photos of our work and put it on our Google slideshow and also our Google site. I always get a little tongue-tied when I think about that stuff because everything starts with Google. Starts and ends with Google. That's the way they want it. They want to own the world. And they're well on their way, I think. So, this guy, or creature, head looks like this. Sort of comes square on the bottom, but it's also jagged. I don't know if you're aware of what a tiki is. That's those Polynesian totem pole looking things. But this almost has the appearance of a tiki. But rather than being frightening, he is frightened. Darken in his mouth here. Its mouth here. Got to get out of that habit somehow. I'm not quite sure how to do that. Hands raised in surprise. Little tiny feet. And since this character... Oh, wait, I got another leg here missing. Since this character's in front, you can see the little bit of his leg, of this character's leg down here. So I'm just going to darken that in also, because it's not as important as the menacing creature in front of him. So again, angle the brow, draw in the eyes, draw in the frightening hair, frightening and frightened hair, sweat beads. And that's today's cartoon. Oh, forgot the shininess on the top of this one's head. So I started shading this one in also, just because I like to do that to add emphasis. If you don't want to do that, that's fine. That's something else that we can do on the computer. So that's today's doodle. Remember to always try and find a way to make it your own.